Now, the first major domino to fall in the Middle East is believed to be the Chinese brokered deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia, which occurred in March of 2023. This deal basically stated that there will be a re-establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries and a setting up and establishment of embassies between the two countries. This deal had been welcomed throughout the region because when you look at the region, it had a lot of proxy wars which occurred because of these two countries, Iran and Saudi Arabia. If you look at Yemen, for example, was a proxy war between the government-backed Saudi Arabia, right, and the Houthi rebel-backed Iran, right? A similar thing occurs in, for example, Lebanon, right? You have an Iran-backed Hezbollah rebel group, right, and a Saudi-backed government. The same thing occurs in Syria. So this had been a major domino within the Middle Eastern region, right? That will have a good and a great influence in the region in regards to the peace and stability of the region. Now, another notable strategic move by China was the inclusion of these two major powers, right? These two great energy producers and oil producers into the BRICS expansion in August of 2023, right? This was another strategic move by China to cause an even closer establishment of ties between these two major powers, Iran and Saudi Arabia. So you tie them politically in the affairs of the region, right? And you tie them economically within the affairs and the future of the region. Now, and as as the war between Israel and Palestine wages on, Saudi Arabia starts to put the deal they had with Israel on ice, basically slowing down and backtracking on that deal because this deal, this normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel might cause serious divisions within the region. So this was another strategic move by China for them to be able to be, what can I say, to checkmate the US in the Middle East. The second domino to fall in the Middle East is the return of Syria into the Arab League. Now, in 2011, during the time of the Arab Spring uprisings, right, there were a lot of anti-government protests in Syria. Now, it is believed that the government had a very violent crackdown on these anti-government protests, right? Which caused the Arab League to particularly distance itself from the actions of Syria and exclude itself or suspend Syria from the Arab League. Now, during the Arab League summit in May of 2023, Syria was readmitted to the Arab League after about 12 years suspension that occurred in 2011. Another reason that Syria had to be readmitted back into the Arab League is because of a drug that is known as Captagon. Now, Captagon is a drug that is mostly consumed by rebel fighters like Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, ISIL, right? And Al Qaeda, right? They mostly consume it at night, right? To help them not to sleep, right? And it helps them be fearless in very dangerous situations. Now, most of this Captagon is produced in Syria. Syria controls about 80% of this market, right? And mostly this drug is smuggled through Lebanon, right, to the rest of the Middle Eastern region. Now, the drug itself is not necessarily a problem, right? But the drug networks which transfer the drugs and move the drug are also used for uh, arms, illegal arms, to move illegal weapons, right, throughout these networks and throughout the region of the Middle East. So it is important for the Arab League to readmit Syria, right, so that they can be able to dismantle and this illegal network of arms which are flowing throughout the region, which mostly have an origin from Syria. Right. Another domino that fell in the Middle East in regards to the Chinese influence in the area is the acceptance of Egypt into the BRICS expansion, right? Now, when we look at the Middle Eastern part of the BRICS expansion, right, there are basically three countries, right? It's Iran, it's Saudi Arabia, and it is Egypt. Now, China strategically chose these three countries as to secure the three major geostrategic points that exist in the Middle East, right? Which are the Bab el Mandeb is the fourth biggest geostrategic choke point in the world. It sits between the Middle Eastern country known as Yemen and the North African country known as Djibouti. At its narrowest, this waterway is about 30 kilometers wide. It has the ability to handle about 3.8 million barrels of oil per day. This waterway connects the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean. Now, before the 1850s, when the West wanted to trade with the East, they had to fundamentally travel down the length of Africa around the Cape of Good Hope and up towards India or China, right? Now, in 1850, right, the French constructed the Suez Canal to reduce the travel time and trade period between East and West. The Suez Canal is found in Egypt and it was constructed, right, to be a length of about 193 kilometers long. It is about 24 meters deep and it is about 205 meters wide. In March of 2021, the Suez Canal was blocked by a cargo ship that was blown off course by a wind and it blocked the Suez Canal. The impacts and the effects of this uh, 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 incident, right, literally brought a halt to the global economy. The way the Suez Canal functions is that it connects the Mediterranean Sea, right, through Egypt, right, to the Red Sea. So the Suez Canal basically connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. Now, a number of commodities pass through this canal, but one of the most important resources that passes through this canal is oil, right? The Suez Canal can handle about 5.5 million barrels of oil per day. The Strait of Hormuz is found between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It is surrounded by a number of oil producing countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Iraq, and Iran. The Strait of Hormuz has the ability to handle about 21 million barrels of oil per day. At its narrowest point, it's about 39 kilometers wide. To show its sensitivity as a geostrategic choke point, we will be looking into the war that happened between Iran and Iraq, that is known as the Tanker War. It happened around the mid 80s. As Iran, right, was bombing the oil tankers of Iraq, Iraq was also doing the same to the oil tankers of Iran. This disturbed the global trade or the global energy market drastically in the 80s.